social media. I find that much more useful and enjoyable for everyone. Really what's going on with social media, what I want to emphasize, sort of pick up on something that Stephen was raising about businesses and what's going on in businesses. Really with social media, it is a huge battle going on right now. This is a battle at the heart of not just communication, but businesses themselves. It's a battle that I'm happy to enter. I've been in a few battles before. I'm the one, the third from the right, with the glasses on. And this change is quite a fundamental shift from where we were before in the traditional media age, through bought, earned, and owned, into a world where these new platforms are really ruling everything on a fundamental level. Just to get to know for this audience a little bit, who here works for a company where you have a social media presence? Almost everyone. Okay, great. How many people here feel that is being used fully, or to the full extent that you can use it? Nobody. That's easy. And these are internal hurdles, external hurdles? What is getting in the way of people executing in social media, getting the full value? Is it the structures on the inside of a company?
Both.
Sorry?
Both.
Both. The internal structures of the company, which is a huge issue. I mean, one of the things that,
not about internal structure, but a lot of factors internally, which is things like that, and externally obviously there are.
Okay, so it's just getting somebody convinced that this is something worthwhile to get involved in and put the resources behind.
It's a little bit new, so I wouldn't make that statement, but yes, resources, internal structures, the newness of it all, those are the things that contribute.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that people are failing to realize is that we've really moved from a period where this was a nice-to-have thing that was, maybe could be seen or dismissed as niche, so maybe you couldn't get the resources behind it, to something that really is an absolute necessity. Previously, I would be talking to audiences and saying that you're really missing an opportunity if you're not involved in social media. At this point, you're actually operating at the point of a business risk. If you just look at Facebook as one platform, it's now the 5th largest nation in Asia by population. If you look at Asia, Asia has the top 3 of the top 10 Facebook nations in the world are in Asia, with 10 of the top 30 in Asia, including countries like, territories in countries like Hong Kong and Singapore, which have relatively small populations, yet are right up there in terms of the absolute internet population, absolute Facebook population. This showing the portion of the population, this graph here showing the portion of the population that is on Facebook. We're at levels that are higher than the United States. Hong Kong has a higher level of penetration of Facebook per capita than the United States. And all of these countries are nearing 50% of the entire national population. With this whole era of new media and looking at social media, however, I think it's really important to go back and understand what we're in the business of doing, or particularly what I'm in the business of doing, which is helping companies. And this is the founder of Ogilvy, David Ogilvy. I'm not an Ogilvy acolyte by any means, but he did say some pretty practical and interesting things. This statement is one of them, which is the recommendations we make to them, being our clients, should be the recommendations we would make if we owned their companies without regard to our own short-term interests. This means that you really want to look out for the interests of these companies, not in a way that is, skewed towards what you happen to be involved in, i.e. social media. You really want to have a pure business impact. This means that really, I don't care so much about likes and fans. That seems a strange thing to say in a social media conference. They're not the ultimate value. The ultimate value and interesting thing from my perspective, and that's the thing that I'm always driving my team to get involved in, is looking at the fundamental business value. What are we changing and what are we shifting to improve that client's business and really bring it forward? If we're not having a lot of trouble, and I'll come to this in a little while, if you're not having pain, there is not enough of a change going on in the way that you're using social media. So now I'm going into my 12-step plan, which is actually an abbreviated 12-step plan. All plans seem to have 12 steps. This one has 10 steps. So it's a 10-step, 12-step plan. And the first step in the 10-step, 12-step plan is you want to begin going in a planned way when you're working with social media. This means starting with a robust planning framework. This is the one that we use. We happen to think it's the best. But it really, you begin with listening, figuring out what's going on in social media, where your clients talking about you, where they're talking about the things of interest to you. This is good not only because you will learn a lot of insights about what your clients care about, but your customers care about. You will also learn benchmarks about what is the way that you can measure your progress and success. The next level is where you want to begin planning and beginning looking at what you're actually going to do. And here we've seen over the last year, particularly here in Asia, a sharp break between two strains of what is going on with social media. One of them is what we would call influencer focused, and the other is what we call social grassroots. Influencer focused is when you are looking at people who are high-level influencers. The analogy would be, this is a high-level journalist or offline influencer. We need to spend time paying attention to this person. In terms of the social grassroots, this is community management. This is finding a way to interact at scale with a large number of people. And this has really been a large focus of what we've been involved in. And what you do for these two different strains of social media varies. With the influencers, you would tend to look for what we call remarkable experiences, which is something unique that they cannot get elsewhere. What we would do with the social grassroots is find ways to get involved in everyday engagement. And this is where we would build out, we call it a conversation calendar, where you have a scheduled way of interacting with the members of your community over time. Once you get to the end over here, you want to begin measuring performance, figuring out what worked, what didn't work, and iterate, change, adjust. The number of times when things have not gone as planned in good and bad ways, it's almost every campaign. It's unexpected in some way. You're always going to want to shift and change it over time. When you are building out across a large organization, or pretty much any organization, you really need to grow the internal knowledge. Anybody could end up being the most important person for you within social media, and you don't know who that person is. This is what I would call sort of the accidental spokesperson. The accidental spokesperson might be the concierge in a hotel, or the guy in design, the design department, or somebody who has a particular knowledge of the industry that people are keen to get hold of. You want to find these people, inspire them, get them involved in understanding the power of social media and how they can be empowered to communicate their knowledge. You want to empower them to understand how to do it. In this case, this is one of our clients, Virgin, the airline, Virgin America, where we did a social media plan for them that was really helping their own staff get very involved in social media itself in a very Virgin-style way. It was not your standard document saying, don't do this, do that. It's done in a fun way. There's fun images. It really tells them, guides them in how to do it, so that they feel confident and you will get involved, but in the way that is most appropriate for the particular company. And finally, measuring is wildly important. That allows people, we call these the social media belts. We do this both internally and externally. This allows people to see what their progress is and where they stand in terms of their ability to execute in social media. One problem we find, frankly, both internally and with clients, is people often, to quote Rumsfeld, don't know what they don't know. There's an attitude that, oh yeah, I'm on Facebook, sure, yeah, I can do that. And they don't really understand what they're unaware of. Another manifestation of this is the famous interns going to do our social media strategy over the summer phenomenon, which is much reduced these days, I've noticed, which is a good thing. Generally what ends up happening is the intern leaves at the end of the summer with the password, and you end up with this zombie page that nobody knows the password to. But I've seen much less of that these days, I'm glad to say. The next thing is you really want to have a system for creating content in a regular, systematic, and scalable way. This means you set up what we've often created with different clients is what we call a content factory. The content factory, my background is actually in journalism, and so this is sort of based on a newsroom analogy, where basically you have people collecting information, you're analyzing that information, strategizing what to do with it, and then figuring out how to respond. The strategizing part and the responding part I will come back to, because do not think, once again, this is not a communication focus. I think if you look at social media as a means of communication, you're really missing 90% of the opportunity for what social media offers. For content, and one of the fundamental principles of a content factory is that you want to have that content scalable. In other words, when you've created something for one of your phase 1 markets, you'd love to have it so it can go over the phase 2 and phase 3 markets as well. This is absolutely crucial, and this can be very small changes to what you're doing, but if you build it in the process at the beginning, suddenly this program or this video or this piece of content is quickly used across a market where you don't have a lot of resources to actually deploy you don't have the ability to create an absolutely new video for Japan, which is a phase 3 market. It's interesting. These days Japan is a phase 3 market. Tough time. The scaling of distribution. This is an important aspect of this. You want to be able to bring out this content in as many ways and as many places with the minimum amount of hassle. One of the issues that I don't know if many people are facing here, and it kind of comes back to the issue raised by the gentleman in the back about resourcing. It's finding the ability, the time in the day to actually manage a social media presence. One of my obsessions, personally and professionally, is getting rid of digital bureaucracy. Digital bureaucracy is just murder. There's nothing I hate more than copy, paste, cut, doing these mechanical things. They're utter waste of time. So for that reason, what you want to do is find a way to you have a platform that allows you to manage across multiple presences. This can be something such as a TweetDeck or Seismic or one of these platforms, to something that a sort of heavier lifting, business-focused one for a Facebook page like Vitru or Buddy Media. These are all ways that suddenly you can have a presence across multiple languages and multiple geographies that addresses what somebody coming to your page or site from India or Japan, so that you won't have wasted effort and you'll be able to optimize their experience. Deploying content intelligently is something that a lot of companies do not do. An incredible waste of energy, time, and resources. Unbelievable. And it's not just an anecdotal sort of rant I'm having here. It is an actual one. These are statistics relating to the food and beverage industry. Just as sort of a quick side note, we were once involved in looking into what was going on in discussions about drinks online and non-alcoholic drinks online. And one thing we found is what is reflected here. This is both food and beverage industry. With drinks, if you look at non-alcoholic drinks online, there's a huge spike on Wednesdays and Saturdays in Australia. This is for the Australia market. Wednesdays, everybody is talking about Coca-Cola, presumably because they're running out of energy. It's the middle of the week. They're trying to get off for the rest of the week. And on Saturdays, there's a huge amount of discussions about Red Bull. So there's incredible spikes in the conversations. And this is sort of reflected here in the broader food and beverage industry. There's a lot of discussions going on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and a bit on Saturdays. Not much Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Those are not the big days. This graph here, I hope that people on this side can see it a bit, shows where the people are most likely to post information in social media, particularly on Facebook, about food and beverage issues. That's the red line. This is when brands are out there writing about how great a brand they are or what's going on. The interesting thing is this line, the black line, shows the amount that fans get engaged on those days. In other words, there's a lot of posting going on Thursday and Friday when people online, the consumers, people using that content, are really not interested at all in what that content is. So this is a really badly optimized, badly deployed use of valuable content, which somebody has spent a lot of time and effort trying to convince their internal team to spend the money on. You're just wasting that content, really throwing it away. This is really one of the key parts, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, how you don't want to make a social media strategy that is based around communication only. It really has to be what I call more of social business. Social business is where you are addressing the fundamental business issues that a company is facing. If you're not having problems, late night calls with the CEO, that's my message to my team. If you're not on late night calls to the CEO about problems, you're not doing your job. It really is fundamental, because otherwise you're not using social media, you're just skimming along the surface of it. This is an example where if you are, for example, in a hotel or a travel location, you're going to want to look what's happening online, travel guides, social networks, blogs, go through some sort of a dashboard where you can see what is happening, what's going on there, and then you want to communicate to the relevant members of staff. This requires a huge structural change. In terms of this, how many people here are from PR departments or marketing departments? Dominating marketing departments. How many people feel that the PR department is at war with the marketing department? Quite a few. Okay. And how many people feel that the PR department and the marketing department are at war with the customer service department? Well, I'm not working in one of these companies, but I tell you, from my perspective, it sometimes seems absolutely crazy, which is why, once again, I just keep pushing on things and going to these companies and speaking, in rational terms. Okay, we've got a customer complaint. It happens to be on a site, but can't we just treat that as if it was written on one of those pieces of paper that the customer service department normally interacts with? Let's pretend. I'll write it out for you, and then we can do it to the complaints department. It's just crazy. Social media does not respect these walls, as customers of these companies do not respect these walls. Why should they? Why should a customer have to try and figure out whether, where to send that complaint through to? So this is really the role of social business is really where I see the future of the industry that I'm involved in, which is helping companies deal with social media. That's really where the future of the industry is going. This is all about enabling companies to undertake fundamental change management. It's really a McKinsey-like role, a consultancy role, to change their businesses to adapt to this new reality. Measure, measure, measure. This is so important. I can't emphasize it enough. With this is sort of a simplified version of the framework that we use for measurement, which takes a classic sales funnel: awareness, evaluation, engagement, conversion, and loyalty. We simplify it down to reach, preference, and action in order to figure out what's going on with our target market. So something for reach, for example, might mean how much have we shifted the unique monthly views to a website. Preference, that might be how have we shifted sentiment from negative to positive, or how have we changed the share of voice. Are more people talking about this brand than other brands in the past? And finally, action. This can be anything from a click to a purchase, tracking it through. So these are all the things that we want to measure to try to understand what impact we're having where. And we found, as I said, time and again, the wonderful thing about being involved in this industry is it's so wildly unpredictable. And I'm supposed to stand up here and say I know everything about social media, right? Well, I don't. I'm learning every single day, and I can give you, just in the last week, we just had some incredible experiences and learnings about how people are interacting online, both on Facebook and on blogs in various countries in Asia. And it's when you're measuring, you can actually take those learnings and do something with them to understand them. But more than focusing on those communication learnings, which will sort of allow you to optimize the campaign and understand the impact you're having initially, it's really focusing on business impact that at the end of the day that we really care about. Focusing on business impact means how are we changing what has happened. This is an example, a campaign we did in Taiwan involving credit cards. Fubon Bank was the client we were helping. They were a perpetual number 3 or 4 in the market. The thing about credit cards is that everybody has some people have many. These are not all credit cards. I wish they were. But basically, when you pull out your wallet to pay, you need to figure out which credit card am I going to use. So the thing that credit card companies love to measure is something called the activation rate, or the card usage rate is what I called it here. The card usage rate is the number of times somebody decides to pull out that card. So what we did was we built a community which was around food. Taiwanese, anybody here from Taiwan? Nobody here from Taiwan. Anyway, Taiwanese love food. And there's some fantastic restaurants in Taiwan. So I highly recommend a trip to Taiwan if you like food. And they love hearing about where the good food is, and they want to know what are the places to get a good deal from a great restaurant. So we built this community, the Fubon Foodmaster community. The Fubon Foodmaster community allowed people not only to learn what the good restaurants were, share what they thought about the restaurants, but they also learned which are the restaurants that were offering a discount if you used your Fubon Bank card. And as the interest in this community grew, more and more restaurants wanted to take part in this community. The result, over the period of the campaign, and actually it endured longer than the campaign, was compared to the previous time in the previous period in the previous year, same period in the previous year, the usage of the Fubon credit cards went up by 6%, while Citibank, which is by far the market leader, went down by 3%, and Fubon moved from a 3rd or 4th tier position to bouncing up into the number 2 level. Basically by finding a way of engaging with people, making them focus on why they would want to use that card to bring, and from our perspective, finding a way to bring real, visible, concrete impact on the business. And this is where you don't have any arguments from people internally about, is this a good spending of resources? Because we're changing the business. We can show you dollars, money. I'm kind of tend towards being, well, no, I am a capitalist. I believe measuring in dollars really focuses the mind. So when we can do that with a client to show why this has dollar value to them, suddenly, discussions about, well, how much do we want to spend to get a Facebook friend? I don't want to spend anything to get a Facebook friend. I want to spend money to make money. And that's what we help clients to try and do. Another aspect of social media that is too often ignored is it somehow gets siloed in this zone of only being about social media. I find this personally pretty dull. Believe it or not, there is more to the world than Facebook, Twitter, and blogs. And I think that there's more to touching consumers or getting involved in their decisions than just going through these online platforms. That's why we are very much focused on finding ways to touch them through multiple points and multiple perspectives. What does that mean? This is an example we just executed recently in Hong Kong. In a period of 4 weeks, we grew the 2nd largest brand presence in all of Hong Kong. The only one ahead of us right now is the Ocean Park. I don't know if anybody knows Ocean Park, but it's sort of a Disneyland, but not. And they've been around for a long time. This Facebook page did not exist 6 weeks ago. Now it has 118,000 fans. And actually grew so fast that it sort of set off alarm bells in Palo Alto and resulted in me being up at 3 o'clock in the morning talking to Facebook to tell them what we were doing and not how we were going to bring down their platform, which I like, by the way. There was high praise for the member of my staff who forced me to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to talk to Palo Alto. Because if we're not doing that stuff, we might as well give up. Anyway, with this, our deep underlying insight was backed up by research that parents like photos of their children. It's true. We have data to prove it. So we took this deep insight and applied it to a sort of integrated cross-media approach involving sort of co-creation and real-world advertising, which is to say we had 10 buses on which we were going to post 60 photos of 60 babies.